Studio. We're pleased to welcome now Mandy Gunasekara, former EPA Chief of Staff in the Trump administration. Hey, Mandy, good to see you this morning.
Hey, Gerard. Good to be with you.
Well, it's surreal that we're even having to talk about yet a second assassination attempt in, 10 weeks on the former president. And what's even more disturbing is the extent to which the left in this country, the left-wing media in particular, is spinning this deal and blaming the victim, Mr. Trump himself, is beyond belief. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And again, it was the White House press conference earlier this week that Karine Jean-Pierre reiterated that Trump was a threat. And Peter Doocy, a Fox News reporter that frequents those press conferences, many of the listeners are probably familiar with him. He asked her, why do they keep using that type of language, and how many more assassination attempts will there have to be before they change their rhetoric? You rightfully put it. It is unbelievable the way the Democrats are responding to not the first, but the second assassination attempt. And the guy who, the attempted assassin, on his X or Twitter page, he had posted quoting Kamala Harris and Biden and a number of other Democrats, but Kamala Harris, that, quote, democracy is on the ballot. So there's a very clear connection between the language the left is using, inciting very real violence that is being perpetrated against President Trump and other Republicans. I mean, this isn't the first time Republicans have been on the receiving end of a gunshot from a crazed leftist, but President Trump is dealing with it. And the fact that his security didn't have the perimeter set up, it is really, it's unbelievable. It just is across the board.
Now, as you know, the Secret Service is part of the Department of Homeland Security. And, of course, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, is responsible. So now we're learning, Mandy, that he, on his own accord, unilaterally, could order Secret Service protection for the former president and the vice president, for that matter, at the level equivalent to that which the president is afforded. What's he waiting for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it just goes to show you that this administration is using their political power to put President Trump in harm's way. It's very clear. There's not a breakdown from the agents on the ground, and President Trump was actually very clear about this at his latest rally, and he's reiterated it many times. The agents around him in his car, on his person, on the golf course, they are doing their job, and they're doing it really, really well. It's the senior management and the senior leadership and the political leadership that is creating the problems. And the folks on the ground have requested time and again for additional security support. And you're exactly right. Alejandro Mayorkas, the sitting secretary, he could easily make it happen. And I guarantee you this, Gerard, the multi-billion-dollar budget that DHS has access to, I know that there are more than enough funds to cover the personnel and the equipment and the relative resources that would be necessary to actually keep President Trump safe, and they are choosing not to do it.
That's so disturbing. It really is. But is this not, Mandy, what you get when, as president, you appoint cabinet secretaries based on DEI goals, but more importantly, these are political ideologues. They're not public servants. They should be really indifferent to the politics of the situation and just to run their agency in good faith, in a workmanlike manner. I mean, that's the way you're supposed to do this.
Well, especially when it comes to matters of safety and security. There's a number of agencies where that's a key part of their mission. And what the left has done, I actually think that this is more telling of how the left has evolved. They don't see their political opponent as a fellow person. They see them as someone who's standing in the way of their rightful power. And that's how they're acting. They don't treat President Trump and his family as fellow humans. And they've lost sight of that. And that really is It's sad to say, because that type of healthy debate and disagreement is so fundamental to the American experience. But yeah, you're exactly right. A lot of things are going to be influenced by politics, but letting the safety and security of any American citizen, I mean, we could take this to the border, we could take this to crime in cities, politicizing the safety and security of people, including President Trump, that is an absolute dereliction of duty, and it should not. No one should accept it as right, or it shouldn't define the status quo. So there needs to be significant changes. There needs to be some reinstitution of accountability. And Gerard, the only way I think that there's going to be any type of accountability in any of these situations is if President Trump wins at the ballot box this November, because this administration runs away from accountability.
It sure seems like it. Of course, Mayorkas, the individual who continues to tell us that the border is totally secure as well. So he's oblivious to reality, and that makes me concerned about him discharging his role as the manager of the Secret Service. That the Secret Service, how can they function? How can they perform their duty as prescribed if the head guy thinks, oh yeah, the border's totally secure?
Yeah, well, it's also, it's crazy that the head of the Secret Service, the political head of the Secret Service, Cheadle is her last name, that she didn't step down. In the very least, when the first assassination attempt happened, I was listening the other day to some analysis about it, and you have the Secret Service that gets massive resources, and one of their main jobs is to keep the top principles of the the relative parties safe, and one of them just got shot at, not just once but almost twice. And the fact that Director Cheadle has not stepped down again shows you that this administration is unwilling to take accountability. And maybe, Gerard, it's because it's going the way that they want it to, which they want Trump to be put in harm's way, because they're increasingly finding it difficult to beat him at the ballot box.
Well, if there's anything that I think exemplifies a decline, if not the end of democracy, it would be that, because you're representing the people as president. You appoint people to run these agencies. The people expect you to do your job and protect these high-level figures. It's essential to having a functioning democracy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And Gerard, I just remembered, actually, Cheadle did resign, but it was many days
ultimately
after.
Right, not immediately.
Ultimately resigned. But
a lot of pressure
really
to do it.
All the way. Yeah, and that was the only reason. But it stems all the way to the top. And the fact that Kamala Harris and her campaign continue to use words like threat to democracy as they are running against President Trump, obviously those words manifest itself in very serious consequences, and they've shown an absolute unwillingness to stop.
So you're scheduled, I believe, to testify, is that right, tomorrow to the U.S. House Oversight Committee about the Biden-Harris policy failures. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'll be before the House Oversight and Government Accountability Committee over in the House. So if there's any fellow Mississippians over here at 10 a.m., they can come on in and check it out. But I'll be focusing specifically on their failures in the energy industry. We've talked about this a lot. You've covered it extensively. But from day one, this administration has initiated an all-out war on fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, that still provide 80% of our daily energy needs. And when you attack industries like that, it manifests itself in higher costs, everything on top of inflation. And so I'll be talking about the fact that overall prices of goods are up 19.1%. The cost of heating oil is up. The cost of electricity is up. The cost of gas is up since January 2021. And all of this is a result of policy choices that the Biden-Harris administration has made to make it harder to produce oil and gas and other critical resources in this country. There's actually a report I saw the other day. This administration, along with Democrat allies, have taken over 250 actions that make it harder to extract, refine, produce, and deliver their energy resources we need more and more of. So that's what I'll be focusing on.
blunting a supply, which is the key to bringing the price down. That's the bottom line. And honestly, I can't blame the energy companies. They're looking at this administration who pretty much sees them as the enemy. So they're not going to go invest a lot of money in developing more oil and gas if they got an administration that says, we're trying to put you out of business. Man, Mandy, appreciate you joining us. Enjoyed the conversation. We'll be watching the testimony tomorrow. Thanks a lot for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Gerard. Good to be with you.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.